So in this lesson, we're going to be talking about brand strategy and brand identity, since these are two concepts that we will be using a lot throughout this course. So I just wanted to make sure that both you and I are on the same page of, what we mean with those two concepts. Because they hang together. So your brand identity is the part of your brand that people see and can experience somehow. Whereas your brand strategy is not really visible. That's where you're making the choices on how you want your brand to be perceived, but it's not visible. So that's something that is more living in a document and then executed, through your brand identity, and that's how people then experience your brand strategy. Okay. So let's just dive into brand strategies, just so that I can clarify a little bit more on, what is going into your brand strategy. And there's a few different things that you see listed on the page here. The purpose of this lesson is not necessarily for you to kind of know and memorize all the things here on the slide right now, or what I'm saying. It's more to kind of give you an overall feel for what is brand strategy and what is brand identity, and then we will dive into each part of those much deeper when we start working on your brand later on. But let's start with the proposition. So the proposition is really about what you offer, the promise that you're making to your clients and to your customers. So that's your proposition. Your target client is the person that you want to get in the chair if you're a salon, or get into your spa. That's the client that we're going after, where we want to learn a little bit more about her, so to make sure that when we communicate, that we do that in a way that resonates best possible with her. Point number 3 is your positioning. So this is the more, you can say, tactical part or strategic part of your brand strategy, which is all about, looking at competition in your area. So businesses that are doing similar things as you are, and then looking at their brand versus your brand, and then finding your position in that market that creates, a unique position for you. That goes into positioning. Then we have purpose. So if the proposition that we just talked about is all about what you offer, your purpose is about, why you offer that. Okay? So this is where things get a little bit more interesting from a branding point of view. Because when you can articulate, why you do what you do, your brand will resonate with people on an emotional level, on a much deeper level than when you just talk about what you do. Then you have your vision and mission, which really could be two separate points in this list, but I find that people quite often confuse the two. So in this course, we're going to cover them as part of the same lesson, just to make sure that we get crystal clear on that. But in essence, what your vision and mission is about is, where you're seeing your business in the future, and how the business that you're in right now, will help you get there. Then you have your values, and your values is kind of like your behavioral compass. So these are the values that you want yourself and your team to be held against, in terms of like, how do we do things and how do we act, which is obviously very important for a service-based business, since this is a people business. There's a lot of interaction between people. So your values is an important part of your brand strategy and how you're bringing your brand to life there. Then you have your story, which is how you got to where you are today. It links, of course, into your purpose and why your salon exists, but then that kind of explains the story and your journey of getting there. Which is a great way when you can articulate that story to also connect more with people, and also make that emotional connection with your brand through your story. And people like stories, so that is a great way of being able to communicate your brand. And then finally, we have your brand character, which is kind of like the personality of your brand, which, as you can imagine, can be expressed in many different ways than through your brand identity. So those are kind of the 8 points and the 8 different lessons that we will go through and then to workshop on together as we start working on your brand strategy. What I just want to make a point here is also, don't stress too much about this, because, it might be overwhelming. I just threw a lot of new words potentially for you on the screen here that I walked through very quickly. So again, the point here is not for you to memorize all that, but hopefully, that you get a kind of a good idea on what brand strategy is. And we will be going through workshops on each one of them to make sure that that's all crystal clear. Okay, next, let's also cover brand identity. So what is brand identity? your brand can be brought to life through your visual profile, which are things like, the colors that you use in your branding, maybe the language you use in images, all the different visual components that brings to life your brand. That's part of your brand identity. If we look at your marketing, which could be things like print material, it could be the shopping bags that you use, in your salon or spa, or it could also be your Instagram feed or your website. So all the type of like marketing obviously also communicates your brand. And then, which is very important for a salon or spa or service-based business, is of course the experience. So that's, everything from the quality of service that you deliver to how your staff, meets and greets clients, to how your customer service works, and your interior design and music and all these things that kind of creates that experience is a very strong part of your brand identity as well. So I think it's clear, like we said earlier when we looked at what branding is, that this has evolved a lot. The branding is clearly not just about putting your symbol or name on something to distinguish it from someone else, but really everything communicates your brand and brings to life that emotional perception about you in the head of that other person, and that is really where your brand is, and really everything communicates that. So everything there flows into your brand identity, which also might sound overwhelming, right? There's so many different things, and how can you potentially, possibly control all these different things? So I don't want you to stress about that. This is a journey. The fact that you're taking this course and that you're listening through this and learning about this is a massive step on that journey. So it's going to take some time, but you'll also learn really how you can think about this, and as you get clearer on your brand strategy, it will be so much easier with your brand identity, and like how do you execute that, and how do you keep a consistent picture and portray your brand the way you want it to be portrayed. Okay, so there was quite a lot of things in there. We went quite quick over it. We will go deeper into all of those different things, but I hope that gives a clearer picture of what brand strategy is and what brand identity is, and then we'll delve more into that later on.